3 drops. That was all Baba Agba had said. 3 drops for 7 nights, and everything that was threatening her would disappear. No divorce, no disgrace, no younger woman, no losing the life she helped build. That was how it began. Not with blood, not with screams, but with a promise whispered in the dark, and a woman desperate enough to believe it. Adaeze Okonkwo was about to learn that some solutions don't fix problems. They erase lives. Hello, my dear friends, and welcome once again to Tales by Larinzy. This is the home of powerful stories, stories that teach, warn, inspire, thrill, and guide us in the journey of life. If you're new here, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me and helps these stories reach even more people. The Lagos sun cast long shadows across Victoria Island as Adaeze Okonkwo stepped out of her Mercedes G-Wagon, her Hermes bag swinging gently against her hip. The valet at the Eco Hotel rushed forward, almost tripping over himself to open her door. She smiled graciously, slipping him a crisp 1,000 naira note, pocket change to her, a day's meal to him. At 42, Adaeze had everything a woman could want. Her husband, Chief Ada Okonquo, owned Okonkwo Maritime Services, the largest indigenous shipping company in West Africa. Their fleet of 12 cargo vessels plied the waters from Lagos to Mombasa, from Accra to Luanda. The company's annual revenue exceeded 15 billion naira, and Chief Emeka's business acumen had earned him national recognition, an honorary chieftaincy title, and invitations to presidential functions. But Adaeze was more than just a rich man's wife. She had her own accomplishments. She chaired the board of the Okonkwo Foundation, which provided scholarships to underprivileged children across Nigeria. She was on the advisory board of 3 companies. She spoke at women's conferences about economic empowerment. Her Instagram account, though private, had over 50,000 followers eager to glimpse her glamorous life. Their children were thriving. Kamsi, 19, was in her 2nd year at Oxford studying international relations. Obi, 17, attended Eton College, already showing his father's head for business. And Adana, 15, was at Rodin School in England, a brilliant student with dreams of becoming a doctor. The Okonkwo mansion in Ikoyi was a testament to their success, a sprawling property with 8 bedrooms, a swimming pool, a tennis court, and quarters for their staff of 12. They had a vacation home in Dubai, apartments in London for when they visited the children, and a beach house in Ilash, where they occasionally escaped the chaos of Lagos. Yes, Adaeze had everything, and that was precisely the problem, at least from Nkiru's perspective. Nkiru Okoro sat in the hotel lobby, watching her friend glide through the entrance like royalty. They'd been friends for 23 years, since their first day at the University of Ibadan in 1999. Both had been young, ambitious women from middle-class families in Enugu State, determined to make something of themselves in Lagos. They'd shared a room in Tadder Hall, stayed up late studying for exams, attended parties together, and promised to be each other's bridesmaids someday. And they had been. Nkiru had been Adaeze's chief bridesmaid in 2002, when 20-year-old Adaeze married 28-year-old Ada Okonquo, then a rising star in his family's modest shipping business. Nkiru had married too, in 2004, a man named Chukwudi Okoro, an oil and gas engineer. For a while, their lives ran parallel tracks. Both couples lived in nice apartments in Surulere. Both drove decent cars. Both attended the same church, Daystar Christian Center. But then the tracks diverged. Chief Emeka's father died in 2006, leaving him the shipping company. Emeka had vision. He secured loans, expanded the fleet, negotiated contracts with multinational oil companies, and within 5 years had transformed a modest family business into a maritime empire. The Okonquos moved to Ikoyi. They bought the G-Wagon. They sent their children abroad. Meanwhile, Chukwudi lost his job during the 2009 economic downturn. He found another, lost it again, started drinking, started staying out late, and then, in 2018, he left Nkiru for a 26-year-old Delta State beauty queen he'd met at a bar in Lekki. The divorce was brutal. Chukwudi's family blamed Nkiru, claiming she'd been unable to keep her home. She got the apartment in Surulere and a pittance in alimony. She still worked as a branch manager at Zenith Bank, earning decent money by most standards, 450,000 naira monthly. But it was nothing compared to Adaeze's lifestyle, and Adaeze, God bless her, tried to help. She bought Nkiru expensive gifts for her birthday. She invited her to exclusive events. She offered to set her up with wealthy single men. She even offered her a position on the Okonkwo Foundation Board, which Nkiru declined out of pride. Every kindness felt like salt in the wound. "Ada, my darling." Nkiru stood up, embracing her friend. Adaeze's perfume, Chanel No. 5, the real thing, filled Nkiru's nostrils. Nkiru's own perfume was a convincing knockoff she'd bought at Balogan Market for 3,500 naira. "Nkiru, you look wonderful," Adaeze said warmly, and Nkiru heard the lie in it. She knew her Zara dress was last season's collection, bought on sale. She knew her hair, Brazilian weave from Yaba Market, couldn't compare to Adaeze's Peruvian hair installed at the most expensive salon in Victoria Island. They settled into a corner booth at the hotel restaurant. Adaeze ordered champagne, Dom Perignon, 85,000 naira a bottle, without looking at the price. Nkiru's stomach churned. That was nearly a fifth of her monthly salary, and Adaeze ordered it like it was mineral water. "So, tell me everything," Adaeze said, squeezing Nkiru's hand. "How have you been? It's been, what, 3 weeks since we last saw each other?" "I'm fine, just busy with work," Nkiru said, forcing a smile. "You know how it is at the bank. Quarter-end closing, audits, customer complaints. Oh, I can imagine. I'm so grateful I don't have to work anymore, to be honest. Managing the foundation is fulfilling, but it's not like having a boss breathing down your neck." Adaeze sipped her champagne. "Though sometimes I wonder if I should do something more. I don't know, substantive. Maybe go back to school, get an MBA. Nkiru's smile tightened. Adaeze could afford to be philosophical about work because she didn't need the money. For Nkiru, work was survival. Over grilled prawns and pepper soup, Nkiru studied her friend. Adaeze's skin glowed with the results of expensive facials and dermatologist treatments. Her nails were perfectly manicured, gel polish that cost 15,000 naira every 2 weeks. That watch on her wrist, that Patek Philippe Nautilus, probably cost 20 million naira. Nkiru had seen it in the magazine. "How's Chief?" Nkiru asked, keeping her voice light. Adaeze's smile faltered slightly. "Busy, as always. Sometimes I wonder if he even notices I'm there. Last week was our 20th anniversary, and he forgot. Completely forgot. His secretary reminded him the next day, and he had her buy flowers and a card. A card, Nkiru. In 20 years of marriage, the man couldn't even remember our anniversary." "That's terrible," Nkiru said, and she meant it. But beneath the sympathy, something darker stirred. So the perfect marriage had cracks after all. "I know he's busy building the business, providing for us. I'm grateful, truly. But," Adaeze's voice dropped, When was the last time he looked at me, really looked at me, the way he used to? When we were young, he couldn't keep his hands off me. Now we barely touch. We sleep in the same bed like roommates. He comes home late, eats dinner in his study, and falls asleep over his shipping manifests. Have you talked to him about it? What's there to say? Darling, could you please desire your wife again? How pathetic does that sound? Adaeze laughed bitterly. I'm 42 in Kiru. I've had 3 children. I'm not the 20-year-old girl he married. Maybe he's just not attracted to me anymore. That's ridiculous. You're gorgeous. Any man would be lucky to have you. Then why does mine act like I'm invisible? Nkiru reached across the table, squeezing Adaeze's hand. And in that moment an idea took root. A dark, vengeful idea that would grow into something monstrous. If Adaeze's perfect life wasn't so perfect after all, maybe she could help it fall apart completely. Not out of love, out of justice, out of the bitter satisfaction of watching someone else lose everything for once. Ada, I need to tell you something, Nkiru said, leaning forward. I've met someone. Adaeze's eyes widened. Really? Nkiru, that's wonderful. Tell me everything. It's not serious yet, just I joined this exclusive social club. Very discreet, very private. Professional people looking for companionship, networking, that sort of thing. It's been good for me, Ada. I feel alive again. I feel like a woman, not just an ex-wife or a bank employee. A social club? Like a dating service? No, nothing so crass. It's more sophisticated than that. Think of it as a private members club where people can meet, socialize, have meaningful connections without judgment. Everyone's very respectful. Everyone's successful, educated, cultured. It sounds interesting, Adaeze said carefully. There's an event next week. Thursday evening, a cocktail party at a penthouse in Banana Island. Why don't you come with me? Just to see. Just for fun. You said yourself that Chief doesn't pay attention to you. Maybe you need to remember what it feels like to be admired, to be seen. I'm married, Nkiru. So, you're also a woman who deserves to feel desired. Look, I'm not saying you should have an affair. I'm just saying you should come out, have some champagne, meet some interesting people, feel attractive again. What harm could it do? It's just one evening. Chief probably won't even notice you're gone. Adaeze bit her lip, considering. The rational part of her knew this was dangerous territory, but another part of her, the part that had felt invisible for years, the part that wanted to feel young and desired again, whispered, why not? What's the harm in one evening? Just one event, she finally said, just to see. Nkiru smiled. Just to see. As they finished their lunch and parted ways, Nkiru pulled out her phone and sent a text message to a number saved under the name Investment. Target confirmed for Thursday. She's vulnerable, unhappy in her marriage, and desperate to feel valued. Just as we discussed, this is going to be easier than I thought. The reply came seconds later. Perfect, I'll be ready. Remember, you get 15% of whatever we extract. Make sure she's properly primed. Nkiru deleted the messages and slipped her phone back into her fake Gucci bag. She felt a twinge of guilt. Adaeze had been her friend for over 2 decades, but she pushed it down. Adaeze had everything. She could afford to lose some of it. Besides, Nkiru told herself, she wasn't actually going to hurt Adaeze. Just redistribute some of that wealth. Teach her a lesson about humility. It was justice, really. If only Nkiru had known where her justice would lead. Ifeanyi Madu stood in front of the full-length mirror in his apartment in Lekki Phase 1, adjusting his Tom Ford tie. At 32, he was the picture of success, tall, athletic, with the kind of chiseled features that made women do double takes. His skin was the color of dark chocolate, smooth and unblemished. His teeth were perfect, expensive cosmetic work done in South Africa 2 years ago. His clothes were designer, his cologne was Creed Aventus, and his watch was an Omega Seamaster that had cost him 1.8 million naira. Everything about Ifeanyi screamed, "Successful young executive," which was exactly the point because Ifeanyi was a fraud. His real name was Ifeanyi Madu, but he had at least 7 other identities: Chidi Nwosu, Adeolu Williams, Tunde Bekare, Kenneth Ona, David Obi, Francis Okeke, and Michael Chukwu. He had passports, driver's licenses, business cards, and elaborate backstories for each one. To some women, he was a tech entrepreneur who'd sold his startup to Facebook. To others, he was an investment banker working for Goldman Sachs. To still others, he was a real estate developer with properties across West Africa. He was whatever his marks needed him to be. Ifeanyi had been running confidence schemes since he was 24, when a stint working as a front desk agent at the Transcorp Hilton had exposed him to Nigeria's wealthy elite and taught him exactly what they valued: appearance, status, connections, and flattery. He'd studied their patterns, their insecurities, their desires. His specialty was wealthy married women between the ages of 35 and 50. Women who'd achieved success, built families, and then discovered that success didn't protect them from loneliness, from feeling undervalued, from yearning for passion and romance. Women who had money and were vulnerable to a handsome young man who made them feel 25 again. Over 8 years, Ifeanyi had swindled approximately 12 women, stealing an estimated 5 billion naira. 2 of his victims had committed suicide after he'd destroyed their lives. One was in a psychiatric hospital. The others had quietly absorbed their losses, too ashamed to report what had happened or to admit how thoroughly they'd been manipulated. Ifeanyi felt no remorse. In his mind, these women were already living extravagant lives, built on their husband's wealth. He was simply redistributing resources. If they were stupid enough to fall for his schemes, that was their problem, not his. His method was refined and ruthless. First, identify the target, usually through contacts like Nkiru, women who could provide insider information in exchange for a cut. Second, create an identity tailored to the target's specific vulnerabilities. Third, deploy charm, attention, and psychological manipulation to create emotional dependency. Fourth, introduce elements of juju and mysticism to cloud judgment and create suggestibility. Fifth, isolate the target from family and friends. Sixth, extract the money. Seventh, disappear. He'd never been caught because he was careful. He never got greedy too quickly. He built relationships over months, sometimes a full year. He made his victims believe they were the ones pursuing him, not the other way around. And he always covered his tracks. Burner phones, cash transactions, offshore accounts in Mauritius and the Seychelles. The juju element was crucial. Ifeanyi worked with Baba Agba, a Babalawo in Badagry who'd been his partner for 6 years. Baba Agba provided the potions, the charms, the rituals that made Ifeanyi's targets more susceptible to manipulation. Whether the juju actually worked through supernatural means or simply through placebo effect and psychology didn't matter. The results were the same. The leather pouch Ifeanyi wore around his neck contained items Baba Agba swore would make any woman fall desperately in love with him. pubic hair from a mad woman, honey mixed with menstrual blood, ground bones from a graveyard, herbs gathered at midnight, and incantations written on parchment in chicken blood. His cologne was mixed with love herbs, ingredients Ife and I didn't know and didn't care to know. His ring had a tiny compartment containing powder that, when dissolved in drinks, supposedly made women more suggestible, more willing to share secrets, more open to radical ideas. And when the time came to escalate, when he needed a target to do something truly drastic, Baba Agba had darker preparations, potions that could kill, rituals that could bind a person's will, curses that could destroy families. Again, Ifeanyi wasn't entirely sure he believed, but he'd seen the results too many times to dismiss it entirely. Women who'd been rational and cautious, transformed into obsessed, reckless versions of themselves. Women who'd never dreamed of betraying their families, suddenly liquidating assets and abandoning children. It was either the most effective juju in Nigeria, or Ifeanyi was simply the most skilled manipulator alive. Probably both. His phone buzzed, a text from Nkiru, target confirmed for Thursday. She's vulnerable, unhappy in her marriage, and desperate to feel valued. Just as we discussed, this is going to be easier than I thought. Ifeanyi smiled. He'd met Nkiru 6 months ago at a bar in Victoria Island. She'd been drunk, bitter, and complaining about her ex-husband and her wealthy friend who had everything. He'd bought her another drink, listened sympathetically, and by the end of the evening had recruited her. All it had taken was 500,000 naira up front, a promise of 15% of whatever they extracted from her friend, and an appeal to her jealousy. Nkiru didn't think of herself as a bad person. She genuinely believed she was teaching Adaeze a lesson, taking her down a peg, redistributing some of that unearned privilege. Ifeanyi knew better. Nkiru was motivated by pure envy, the corrosive kind that destroyed friendships and justified betrayal. She was useful, but he'd dispose of her the moment she became a liability. He texted back, "Perfect. I'll be ready. Remember, you get 15% of whatever we extract. Make sure she's properly primed." Then he opened his laptop and pulled up the dossier he'd been building on Adaeze Okonkwo. Nkiru had been providing information for weeks, bank statements she'd accidentally seen when visiting Adaeze's home, details about the family's assets, information about Chief Emeka's business dealings, insights into Adaeze's emotional state. The picture was clear. Adaeze Okonkwo was worth approximately 2 billion naira, possibly more when you factored in properties and business interests. She was unhappy in her marriage, feeling invisible and unappreciated. She had no close friends besides Nkiru, which was interesting. Isolation made the job easier. Her children were abroad, so she had limited daily emotional support. She was spiritual but not overly religious. She attended church but also believed in traditional practices. Perfect. Ifeanyi began crafting the identity he'd use. Chidi Nwosu, 32-year-old tech entrepreneur. He'd studied computer science at MIT, fake diploma already prepared. He'd returned to Nigeria to launch a fintech startup, fake website already created. He was single, having ended a long-term relationship 6 months ago because his girlfriend couldn't handle his ambition. A sob story that made him seem both successful and emotionally available. He practiced his smile, warm, genuine, with just a hint of vulnerability. Perfect. "Hello, Adaeze," he said to his reflection. "What a beautiful name for a beautiful woman." In 4 days, he'd meet his next target. In 4 months, if everything went according to plan, He'd be 2 billion naira richer, and Adaeze Okonkwo's life would be destroyed. He felt no guilt about this. In the jungle of Lagos, there were predators and prey. Ifeanyi had decided long ago which he'd rather be. Thursday evening arrived with Lagos's typical chaos. Traffic on the Lekki-Ikoyi link bridge side Nkiru's Honda Accord, far less impressive than Adaeze's G-Wagon. The two women were cocooned in air-conditioned silence. Adaeze fidgeted with her Cartier bracelet. She'd changed clothes 3 times before settling on a sophisticated but not too revealing emerald green dress by Tiffany Amber, a Nigerian designer. She'd told Chief Emeka she was having dinner with Nkiru, which was technically true. He'd barely looked up from his laptop. "You look nervous," Nkiru observed, navigating through traffic. "I feel ridiculous. I'm a married woman going to some social club. What am I even doing?" "You're taking one evening for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. You've earned it, Ada. How many years have you spent being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, managing everyone's needs but your own? That's what marriage is, Nkiru. That's what family is. And does Chief Emeka sacrifice the way you do? Does he give up his evenings, his freedom? Or does he come and go as he pleases while you sit at home waiting?" Adaeze had no answer for that. The penthouse in Banana Island was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the Lagos Lagoon, lights twinkling across the water like scattered diamonds. The apartment itself was decorated in minimalist, modern style. White leather sofas, abstract art on the walls, a bar made of backlit onyx. About 30 people mingled throughout the space, all impeccably dressed. Adaeze recognized a few faces: a Nollywood actress, a senator's daughter, a banking executive she'd met at charity functions. The women ranged from their early 30s to mid-50s, all attractive, all clearly wealthy. The men were younger, uniformly handsome, attentive. Champagne? A server appeared at Adaeze's elbow with a tray of crystal flutes. "Thank you," she murmured, taking one. The champagne was excellent, probably Krug or Crystal. Whoever organized this club had money. "Relax," Nkiru whispered. "Just enjoy yourself. Talk to people. No pressure." But Adaeze felt pressure, the weight of her wedding ring, the ghost of her marriage vows, the faces of her 3 children. What was she doing here? Then she saw him. Chidi Nwosu stood near the windows, laughing at something another man had said. He was tall, easily 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his navy suit perfectly. His skin gleamed under the recessed lighting. When he turned and his eyes met Adaeze's across the room, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Butterflies. He smiled, not the practiced smile of a man who knew his effect on women, but something warmer, more genuine. And then he was walking toward her, weaving through the crowd with easy confidence. "Hello," he said, and his voice was deep, cultured, with the faintest American accent. "I don't think we've met. I'm Chidi." "Adaeze," she managed. Up close, he was even more striking. His cologne was subtle and expensive. His eyes, deep brown, almost black, held hers with disconcerting intensity. "Adaeze," he repeated, as if tasting her name. "What a beautiful name for a beautiful woman. It means princess, doesn't it?" "Daughter of a king," she corrected automatically. "But close enough. And are you? A daughter of a king?" She laughed despite herself. "My father was an accountant in Enugu, not quite royalty." "I disagree. You carry yourself like royalty. I noticed you the moment you walked in." Adaeze felt heat creep up her neck. When was the last time anyone had spoken to her like this? When was the last time anyone had noticed her walking into a room? They talked. Or rather, Chidi asked questions and Adaeze found herself answering, sharing more than she'd intended. Yes, she was married. Yes, she had children. No, they weren't in Nigeria. They studied abroad. Yes, she ran a foundation. Yes, she'd studied business administration at UI. And Chidi, he listened. Not the polite half-listening of someone waiting for their turn to speak, but genuine, focused attention. He asked follow-up questions. He remembered details. He made her feel like she was the only person in the room. "What about you?" Adaeze finally asked, realizing she'd been monopolizing the conversation. "What do you do?" "I'm in tech," Chidi said. "Fintech, specifically. I studied computer science at MIT, worked in Silicon Valley for a few years, then decided to come home and build something here. Africa is the future of mobile banking, and I wanted to be part of that revolution. That's impressive and brave. A lot of people who go abroad never come back. Nigeria is home. Yes, it's frustrating sometimes, the infrastructure challenges, the bureaucracy, but it's also exciting. There's so much potential, so much opportunity. I'd rather build something meaningful here than make another American company richer." Adaeze found herself nodding. She'd always admired people who chose to invest in Nigeria rather than flee. Chief Emeka was the same way. He could have relocated his business to Ghana or South Africa years ago, but he'd insisted on staying, on contributing to Nigeria's economy. The thought of her husband sent a pang of guilt through her. Here she was at a party drinking champagne and flirting with a younger man. What was wrong with her? As if reading her thoughts, Chidi said gently, "You looked sad for a moment there. Everything okay?" "I'm fine, just thinking about home, about my family." "Your husband, is he a good man?" The question was direct, almost improper, but Adaeze found herself answering honestly. "He's a good man, a good provider, but he's also absent. Not physically, but emotionally. We've been married 20 years, and sometimes I feel like we're strangers sharing a house." "That must be lonely." "It is," Adaeze whispered. And just like that, tears pricked her eyes. She blinked them back, embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I don't usually talk about this with strangers." "We're not strangers," Chidi said softly. "We're two people having an honest conversation. There's nothing wrong with that." He reached out, not touching her but his hand hovering near hers on the sofa armrest. "May I ask you something? When was the last time your husband made you feel seen? Really seen, not just as a wife or a mother, but as Adaeze, the woman?" The question hit her like a physical blow, because she couldn't remember the last time Chief Emeka had asked about her dreams, her fears, her desires. Couldn't remember when they'd last had a conversation that wasn't about the children's school fees, the foundation's budget, or his company's latest contract. "I can't remember," she admitted. "Then he's a fool," Chidi said simply. "If you were mine, I'd remind you every day how extraordinary you are." The words were forward, inappropriate even, but they didn't feel slimy or manipulative. They felt sincere. And Adaeze, starved for affection and attention, drank them in like someone dying of thirst, finding water. They talked for 2 more hours, about books they'd read, places they'd traveled, dreams they had. Chidi was well-read, intelligent, funny. He made her laugh. Really laugh, not the polite chuckle she offered at Chief Emeka's business dinner parties. When Nkiru finally appeared to say it was time to leave, Adaeze felt genuinely disappointed. "Can I see you again?" Chidi asked as they stood by the elevator. "Maybe for coffee. just to talk. I've really enjoyed this evening." Adaeze knew she should say no, knew this was dangerous, but she found herself saying, "I'd like that." They exchanged phone numbers. As the elevator descended, Nkiru squeezed her arm. "So, what did you think?" "He's interesting," Adaeze said carefully. "He's more than interesting. He's completely smitten with you. I saw the way he was looking at you, like you were the only woman in the world. He's just being nice." "Ada, nice is holding a door open. That man was gazing at you like you hung the moon, and you liked it. Don't even try to deny it." Adaeze said nothing, because Nkiru was right. She had liked it. She'd liked feeling desired, feeling interesting, feeling like a woman instead of just a wife and mother. And that scared her more than anything. What Adaeze couldn't see, was the leather pouch around Chidi's neck, hidden under his shirt. Didn't know that the cologne he wore contained love herbs prepared by Baba Agba. Didn't know that while she'd been in the bathroom, he'd added a tiny pinch of powder to her champagne, powder that would make her more suggestible, more open to emotional manipulation over the coming weeks. Didn't know that everything about their connection was calculated, rehearsed, a performance so skilled it felt authentic even to the performer. As Adaeze's car disappeared into Lagos traffic, Ifeanyi Madu, currently playing Chidi Nwosu, sent a text to Baba Agba. First contact successful. The charm is working. She's lonely, vulnerable, and already emotionally invested. Move to phase 2. The reply came quickly. Good. Bring her to see me within the month. I'll prepare the stronger preparation. The affair, if you could even call it that yet, began innocuously enough. Coffee at Cafe Neo in Lekki. Lunch at Bamboo Restaurant in Victoria Island. Long conversations about art, politics, philosophy. Chidi never pushed for anything physical. In fact, he seemed content just to talk, which made Adaeze trust him more. "I'm not trying to seduce you," he said during their third meeting at a quiet spot in Lekki Conservation Center where they walked among the nature trails. "I just enjoy your company. You're intelligent, thoughtful. I can talk to you about things I can't discuss with most people." "What kind of things?" "Real things. Meaningful things. Most people want to talk about money, status, gossip. But you actually care about ideas, about making a difference." It was masterful manipulation. Chidi was telling Adaeze that she was special, different from other women. He was appealing to her self-image as a thoughtful, charitable person. He was making her believe their connection was intellectual and emotional, not physical or tawdry. Meanwhile, every time they met, Chidi engineered small touches, his hand on her elbow as they walked, his fingers brushing hers when passing a menu. A brief hug goodbye that lingered just a second too long. Each touch was brief enough to seem accidental, but frequent enough to build physical intimacy. He also began subtly undermining her marriage. "Did Chief call you back about dinner?" he asked one afternoon at Terra Culture, where they'd met for Ethiopian food. "No, he said he had a meeting with some Ghanaian investors. Third time this week he's cancelled our plans. That must hurt." "I'm used to it." "You shouldn't have to be used to it," Chidi said quietly. "Being married doesn't mean you stop being a priority. If anything, it should mean the opposite." "You're young. You don't understand how marriage works after 20 years. Maybe not. But I know how love works. And love doesn't forget anniversaries. Love doesn't cancel dinner 3 times in a week. Love doesn't make you feel invisible." The words resonated because they echoed Adaeze's own thoughts she'd been suppressing for years. Chidi wasn't telling her anything new. He was simply validating feelings she'd been taught to ignore. By their sixth meeting, Adaeze was checking her phone constantly for his messages. She found herself dressing more carefully on days they might meet. She started wearing the perfume he'd complimented. She laughed more when she was with him than she had in years, and Nkiru reinforced everything. "You seem happier lately," Nkiru observed during one of their regular lunches. "Is it Chidi?" "We're just friends," Adaeze protested. "Ada, please. I've seen how you light up when you talk about him. There's nothing wrong with having a friend who makes you happy. God knows Chief isn't doing that." "Speaking of Chief, I've been meaning to tell you something." Nkiru leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Remember my colleague Bisi? She was at Prota Hotel last Thursday for a corporate event. She said she saw Chief Emeka there with a younger woman. They were having dinner together, just the two of them. Very cozy, very intimate." Adaeze's stomach dropped. "Are you sure it was him? Bisi knows what Chief looks like, Ada. She's met him at your house parties. She said the woman was maybe late 20s, very pretty, wearing expensive clothes." They were laughing, holding hands across the table. "Holding hands?" Adaeze's voice came out strangled. "I didn't want to tell you. I've been debating all week, but you're my friend and you deserve to know the truth. Maybe there's an innocent explanation. Maybe she's a business associate." "Business associates don't hold hands," Adaeze said bitterly. "Oh God, Nkiru. What if he's been cheating on me this whole time? What if all these late nights, all these business trips, all these cancelled dinners? What if it's been another woman all along? I don't know, Ada. But you need to protect yourself. You need to think about your future, your security." The seed of suspicion had been planted. It was a lie, of course. Chief Emeka had been at Protea Hotel that Thursday, but for a meeting with his accountant, a 58-year-old man named Mr. Adekunle. There was no younger woman, no hand-holding, no affair. But Nkiru had planted the lie deliberately, on Chidi's instructions. And because Adaeze was already emotionally vulnerable, already feeling neglected, that evening when Chief Emeka came home at 9 p.m., late but not unusually so for him, Adaeze studied him with new eyes. Was that a new cologne? Were those scratch marks on his neck, or just irritation from shaving? When he kissed her forehead absently and went to his study, was he avoiding her because he felt guilty? She wanted to confront him but was afraid of the answer. Afraid of what she might discover. Afraid of what it would mean for her marriage, her family, her life. Instead, she texted Chidi, "Can we meet tomorrow? I need to talk." His reply came within seconds. "Of course, whatever you need. I'm here for you." They met at a discreet boutique hotel in Ikeja, Grai. Chidi had booked a suite with a sitting area, explaining that they needed somewhere they could talk without being overheard or interrupted. Adaeze told him everything about Nkiru's report, about her suspicions, about her fears. She cried, and Chidi held her, his arms strong and comforting. His cologne enveloped her, that same scent he always wore, the one mixed with Baba Agba's love herbs. "I'm so sorry," he murmured into her hair. "You don't deserve this. You deserve someone who sees your worth, who cherishes you." "I feel like such a fool. 20 years. I gave him 20 years, and this is how he repays me. You're not a fool. You're a loyal woman who believed in her marriage vows. The fault is his, not yours." They talked for hours. Chidi ordered room service, wine, fruit, cheese. He made sure Adaeze's glass was always full, and in each glass, invisible and tasteless, was a tiny amount of the powder from his ring. Baba Agba's special preparation that made targets more suggestible, more willing to accept radical ideas. "What am I going to do?" Adaeze asked on her third glass of wine. I can't just ignore this, but I can't confront him without proof. And if he is cheating, if I ask for a divorce, his lawyers will destroy me. I'll end up with a fraction of what I helped build. You need to protect yourself, Chidi said carefully. Financially, I mean. You need to make sure you have access to your assets, your accounts. Do you know what you're worth? Do you have control over your own finances? Chief handles most of it. I have my own account with about 50 million naira. But the properties, the businesses, the investments, they're all in his name or in joint accounts that require both signatures. That's dangerous, Ada. If he decides to leave you, you could end up with nothing. After 20 years of marriage, after giving him children, after supporting his business, you could be left with nothing. The words echoed in Adaeze's wine-fogged mind. It was true. She'd been so trusting, so focused on being a good wife, that she'd never considered protecting herself. What if Chief did leave her? What if he'd already spoken to divorce lawyers? What if there was a prenup she'd signed years ago that she didn't even remember? I should talk to a lawyer, she said. Find out what my rights are. That's smart. But be careful. If Chief finds out you're consulting divorce lawyers, he might move to protect his assets first. He might freeze joint accounts, transfer properties, hide money offshore. These wealthy men, they have resources, connections. They can make you disappear from your own life. Fear gripped Adaeze. Then what should I do? I don't know, Ada. I wish I had answers for you. Chidi paused as if considering something difficult. There is one person who might be able to help. A traditional consultant. People call him Baba Agba. He advises some of the wealthiest people in Nigeria on matters of protection, security, spiritual warfare. I've consulted him a few times about business decisions. A Babalawo? Adaeze wasn't sure how she felt about that. She was Christian, attended Winners' Chapel, believed in prayer and faith. Not exactly a babalawo, more like a spiritual advisor. He doesn't do evil things, Ada. He helps people protect themselves, see clearly, make wise decisions. Maybe he could help you understand what's really happening in your marriage. Maybe he could give you protection from whatever Chief is planning. Nothing had happened yet. No spell, no ritual, no blood. And that was the most dangerous part. Because the moment Adaeze agreed to just listen, a line was crossed, one she would never be able to step back over. What followed was not temptation, but instruction. Not love, but control. Not protection, but preparation. Part 2 uncovers the first demand Baba Agba made, and the quiet decision that sealed Adaeze's fate before she even realized she had chosen. If you enjoy dark African stories where power whispers before it strikes, you're in the right place. Subscribe to Tales by Larinzy for stories told softly and remembered loudly. Like this video, share it with someone who enjoys stories that linger. And tell me, at what point do you think Adaeze truly lost her way?